Welcome back to another episode of Hawk Talk here on Monday. How is everyone doing today?
Good.
Not too shabby.
Awesome.
Great. Very good. Very nice day. Happy Veterans Day. If you guys have any family members that served, thank you them for your service today on this Veterans Day, 11/11. Great day numerically. Just looks clean, writing it out on your dates for your assignments. But all in all, great day here in Wisconsin. A little windy, but gentlemen, let's talk some sports. We'll get right into it. First topic of the day, Warhawk thought. What do you feel is the best dynasty in sports history? This cannot be limited to any particular sport, but overall, what dynasty, college or pro, do you feel was the most dominant in their stretch of championships or playoff appearance? We'll start with you, Zach.
You guys can hate me all you want, but I got to go with the New England Patriots dynasty.
It's a staple.
Just watching that dynasty from the beginning to the end of it, it was just spectacular. So many memorable moments, like the 28-3 comeback, the interception that the Seahawks made at the 1-yard line in Super Bowl 49, and us barely beating them by 4 points with that. It was just, man, that and what else? Man, I could name so many. It's like I can't even.
6 Super Bowls, in fact, for Brady during that dynasty.
Yes, and 6 Super Bowls. I forgot to mention that. I don't know why.
Most memorable being probably the 28-3 against Atlanta.
Yes.
As well as that one against Seattle. How can we all forget where Seattle just had to hand the ball off to their best goal line running back?
We talk about that comeback versus Atlanta being big. He had a comeback in that Seattle game, too. That was huge, too.
Very slept on. Tom Brady, just undisputably the greatest quarterback of all time.
Yes.
No doubt about that at all. And it's just truly remarkable what he did with that New England Patriots franchise. Him and Belichick together were truly something special.
The best combination, the best quarterback and head coach combination of all time.
I 100% agree. What a great dynasty that was in New England. Now, not so much.
Well, they haven't been the same since Tom Brady left in general.
Big win last Sunday, though.
Big win last Sunday.
I will agree with that.
The Patriots are on the right track. I do believe Mayo is the right decision for the Patriots going forward. But yes, not quite like the Patriots of old. Adam, best dynasty in sports history.
Just take a look at my hat for a moment.
Golden State
Yeah, the 2014-16 Warriors. I'm including that season where they broke the all-time single-season winning record of 73-9. So, but we're not going to go into the 3-1 choke in the finals. So, I really don't want to go into that.
So the Warriors in their full dynasty together won 4 rings from 2015 to 2022, led by the great Steph Curry and complemented by great pieces such as Klay Thompson and Draymond Green. And then in 2017, after blowing that 3-1 lead in the finals, signing arguably the best at the time, if not the second best player in the world in Kevin Durant.
If you can't beat him, join him.
Yeah.
That was big.
Thunder blow a 3-1 lead to the Warriors in the conference finals the year the Warriors went 73-9, and then, of course, they get that team's best player. But all in all, that Warriors dynasty was truly special. A lot of us guys kind of grew up on those Warriors teams, and anytime that one of our teams played them, specifically me with the Grizzlies, or I know the Bucks ended the Warriors' undefeated start to the season one year, it was just really cool to watch them play and always root against them. But in the end, Curry would go on some 3-point shooting masterclass, and overall, that was just dominance at its finest.
I don't know how he does it.
It's insane how good Steph Curry is at basketball. You really can't put it into words, and even still in 2024 with his Olympic performance against France, especially in that final, where in those final 3 minutes he just took over. So, what led you to picking the Warriors? Are you like a Warriors fan secondly, or I see you have a hat?
Yeah, they're my second favorite team.
Second favorite team?
Yeah, they were even before they had that historic season, and unfortunately, I've always been called a bandwagon because of it, but it's not true.
I had a good friend all throughout elementary school who loved the Warriors. He loved Andre Iguodala in particular.
Oh, he was pretty good.
And Steph Curry. So he was a big Warriors fan in the early 2010s, like even more so than our local Grizzlies team. And when the Warriors did start getting good, everyone was like, oh, you're a bandwagon. And he was like, no, I promise. I've been a fan of them forever. I promise. Baron Davis. I promise. The We Believe Warriors. But it's funny. Great pick. And they're still not even their dynasty technically still isn't over yet. They've been pretty well to start this season.
Yeah, I think they're 8-1. I think
8-2.
because they're 8-2. Yeah. Oh yeah. Didn't they beat OKC last night?
They beat OKC
That's what I
and they
thought.
beat Boston.
That was big.
And even without Clay now, that Warriors team just finds ways to keep
You're
contending.
Jordan
telling me
Poole.
we're gonna get a Boston Golden State rematch?
Oh,
Jordan Poole.
legend during that finals. Chris, best sports dynasty in history.
Give me them '90s Bulls. That,
What a classic.
Yeah, so many great moments with that team beating Magic Johnson and the Lakers to start it off. Then they played, what was it, Portland in '92 against Clyde Drexler. I remember one game, Jordan hit like 6 threes in the first half of one of those games. It was
Puts
pretty.
the shrug on him.
Yeah, it was pretty electric. And then 93 was the Suns against Charles Barkley, preventing him from getting a ring. Now, on NBA Nightly, Shaq is like, who's got no rings? Charles Barkley. And then they had a 2-year break without any championships because MJ wasn't there.
The questionable retirement.
He was off doing other things, like sucking at baseball. Sadly, I'm sorry to say, but and then he comes back. They beat the Sonics with Gary Payton and Sean Kemp. That was a pretty good team. And then they go to beat the Jazz 2 years in a row. And not just that, none of those series went to 7 games. That's even bigger if you think about it. Didn't lose a single one of those series, and none of them went to 7 games. That just shows how great that dynasty was.
And especially that last game winner
Yep.
against Utah in '98 when, as Jay-Z said, Tyson, Jordan, Game 6, ball game, hitting that game winner off may have been a push-off, but when you're the GOAT, you'll get calls like that. But overall, just an absolute dominating dynasty. Phil Jackson and that triangle offense, just revolutionary for its time. And when you have arguably, LeBron is my GOAT, unfortunately, but at the time, the greatest basketball player of all time, and you compliment him with guys like Horace Grant, Dennis Rodman, Scottie Pippen throughout all those years, Ron Harper, oh my gosh,
Steve Kerr.
Craig Hodges, Steve Kerr.
Tony Kukoc.
Yeah, a lot of great role players to surround him with. It's just truly one of the best eras of basketball, just in terms of rivalry and putting the sport on the map. And it also led to basically the entirety of Kobe Bryant's game was modeled after Michael Jordan.
Yeah, Phil Jackson went from MJ to Kobe Bryant, won, 5 more rings?
Another 5 with
yeah,
him.
That's crazy.
11 rings as a head coach for Phil Jackson, as well as 2 as a player, I believe. So Phil Jackson, in terms of overall rings, he can just sit back and he's got sometimes some fingers he's got 2 rings.
Yeah.
Legendary coach, legendary dynasty during the 90s. Love the pick. Carson, best sports dynasty of all time.
The current Chiefs. No, I'm kidding.
No.
They
Hate to say
are
it,
at the point of being called a
Yeah,
dynasty.
that wasn't mine.
They've
though.
been calling Dynasty for how many years now?
I'm going all the way back to the 60s and 70s with the John Wooden UCLA Bruins.
You took my pick. Very good.
10 out of 12 years winning a title. I don't think it's ever going to be matched like that, including 7 in a row. Of course, Kareem back when he was Lou, he won 3 in a row as well. And they still hold the NCAA record for their 88-game win streak. So I think that one's not even comparable. So granted, it was a whole different era of basketball, but that's still pretty impressive.
Oh,
So,
it doesn't matter how, talent-wise the game has become. That was just flat-out dominance.
Yeah.
My grandmother actually went to UCLA
Really?
while Kareem, previously Lou Alcindor, was at school there, and one of her sorority sisters actually dated him. So she got to go to all the games. So it's so
That's
cool. She
really
tells
cool.
me all the time about how she was able to go to UCLA basketball games, and I was like, you don't appreciate it. You saw
Yeah.
one of the greatest eras of basketball ever, and it's just I'm so jealous all the time that she
Yeah,
brings it up.
Nothing will ever match that. I mean, in terms of college basketball, the one I can think of is UConn women's, but I don't think they still had that impressive of a run.
They
as
had
10
that-
out of 12, but they were close.
They had that 111, 112 game win streak where
which they beat them. But I feel like women's is just the skill level is just kind of
UConn is
it drops
just
off
significantly
pretty fast.
better
Yeah.
at recruiting. The overall talent disparity gap
Yeah, that's what
between UConn and every other team was a lot different than UCLA and every other team at the time.
Yeah. Women's
But-
is just a whole different game, I would say. So
But like you said, John Wooden, probably the best college basketball coach of all time, the Wizard of Westwood,
Yeah.
and that was my pick. Very, very good, very proud.
great minds think alike.
Exactly. I love me some college basketball.
Yeah.
But like you said, it was 11 and what? 11 and 13 years or something like that.
10 and 12.
10 and 12?
And then 7 in a row.
Just dynamite.
Yeah.
They did beat Memphis one of those years, led by Bill Walton too.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Bill Walton.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of great players in those UCLA teams. And lastly, Mason, best sports dynasty of all time.
I really wish I could go to my favorite sports, football, but I feel like football is such like the NFL is such a parity league. It's kind of hard to say that there was a whole bunch of dynasties, at least not ones that I'm interested in. So I am gonna have to keep it to the NBA. Now I do understand people don't like the old, we're done with the 90s, we're done with the 80s type things, but my dynasty did start in the 80s. Matter of fact, this dynasty the day that it started should be considered a national holiday, starting on December 30th, 1984. The dynasty was born of LeBron James. LeBron James is the dynasty that I will be picking. It's almost a 40-year dynasty at this point, still ongoing. I'm not even the hugest LeBron guy, but you got to admit, him himself is somewhat of a dynasty. He got it done with not four different teams. He got 4 rings with 3 different teams, which is already a little impressive of a feat. Then also you have to consider the fact that he was his own GM, his own coach, and a player at the same time. You've never seen a player win rings doing all 3 at the same time. He actually was able to beat one of the other dynasties that we mentioned, the Warriors,
That's true.
with a significantly less good cast. I won't say significantly, I won't hate on the Cavs teams that much, but the Warriors were just a better team on paper. He was able to give them a run for their money. They're going to talk about how he did lose in the finals compared to a Michael Jordan. But, he lost to another dynasty. It's hard to get mad at someone for losing to those Warrior teams because, realistically, I feel like the Warrior teams could beat the Bulls, too. So when you look at LeBron James, and then his dynasty's going to keep going because now he had a child who's going to go in there, and Bronny might win a ring or something like that, and that has to add to LeBron James' legacy as
Win a
well.
ring in the G League.
So, look, hey, don't sleep on Bronny yet. He just dropped a countdown. I've never seen anybody drop a countdown in stats, but he just did that. So, yeah, man, LeBron James and the James family as a whole, it's just the name is a dynasty, man.
La Dynasty James.
So, first of all, when you said 84, I was like, oh, it was like we're gonna talk about the Lakers with Magic and stuff like that.
We are talking about the Lakers. No, he's there right now.
I meant more so the Magic Johnson and Kareem Lakers. I was like, oh, that's where you're going with this. And then you said December 30th, and I was like, why do I know that date? And then as soon as you said it, but despite the Glaze being crazy, I just have to say, first all time in points, 4th all time in assists, 29th all time in rebounds as a forward, the farthest up the rebounding rankings that was not a traditional center. LeBron James.
He's also an underrated shooter too. No one talks about his shooting.
LeBron James is without a doubt 100% the greatest basketball player of all time. As a Jordan fanboy, and I'm not a big LeBron guy, but on accolades alone, it's undisputable. It really isn't. It's not even a topic of conversation. I know a lot of the Jordan fanboys want to argue the 6-0. I think, in my opinion, making 9 finals is arguably more impressive despite only quote-unquote winning 4. And I'm a Jordan guy. I've been defending Jordan for a while. But once LeBron set the all-time point record, and he's still averaging, I believe he's still averaging 26 points per game. This man is going 23 points per game, 7.5 rebounds, almost 9 assists. And he's going to turn 40 this year. A lot of guys would kill for his year 22 season for their prime. They would kill for this stat line.
Yeah.
And this is a down year for LeBron.
A lot of people argue he's been around a long time. He should be doing these things. Why have other people not been doing these things when they've been around? There's been a lot of other people who have had long careers and they just wash out. LeBron he's still performing at a high level.
Yeah, he still got it. And whenever that year comes where he decides to call it a career, he has absolutely nothing to be ashamed of.
Not to mention too, just not even trying to fully glaze LeBron, but not to mention, this guy came into the NBA with every what's the word I'm looking for? All the expectations were on him. All the, he was being claimed as the Messiah, the second coming, the next Jordan. And we never have seen a player like that. All their high school basketball games covered on ESPN2. Every little move he made, starting at age 16 years old. And to go out there on the highest level stage and play for your hometown team with everyone and their brother watching you, and not only do you perform, but you far exceeded those expectations placed before you, LeBron James is 100% the GOAT. And, just like I said, in terms of, I was looking for a team answer, but I'm glad you brought it up, Mason, because LeBron is undoubtedly 100% the GOAT of basketball.
LeGoat.
LeGoat. Real quickly, before we move on to our next topic, Carson did take my pick for best dynasty of all time, so I'll go
Maybe
with my
you took
second
mine.
option. Yeah, womp womp. I'll go with my second option and go with the Celtics in the 60s. Pretty standard. I know a lot of people say we're done. Oh, those don't count. Those rings don't count. Red Auerbach and Bill Russell, great combination. Won a lot of rings in the 60s and really basically ruined Wilt's GOAT case, because if Wilt would have won 5 or 6 of those rings with his accolades, you could definitely make a case for him being the GOAT, but Wilt only ended up getting 2 in his career, which kind of delegitimizes his GOAT debate.
Do you believe in Wilt though? Like, do you believe like some of the things that they said that he did? Do you really believe some of that stuff to be true?
100%.
Yeah,
Wilt was a freak.
I don't know about the 100-point game.
It happened.
it definitely happened, I think.
Despite there not being any raw TV footage or anything like that, Wilt 100% scored 100 points. There's no way. The Knicks were starting their third string center because their first two, the starter was out with injury and the second one was on a team suspension. So they were starting a rookie who was 6'7", guarding 7'1" guy
okay.
I think also during that time period, like, there wasn't as much talent. I mean, there was a lot of talent, but there wasn't as much as we have today. So Wilt probably, like, metaphorically killed some people.
100%. And Wilt still holds, I believe, the long jump record at Kansas.
Dude,
What?
Yes.
looking in 1961, dude averaged 50 points a game and 25 rebounds a game.
Oh my God.
He was unfair. And yeah, there's no way with those stat lines that he didn't average that he didn't score 100 points that
That's
one
what
night.
I want to be in NBA 2K.
I could see it.
And another thing too that's really criminally underrated about that 100-point game is he went 28 of 32 from the free throw line that game. He was a career 70% shooter. So those rims in Hershey, Pennsylvania really came through, those old and forgiving rims.
That granny shot free throw.
He actually only did that for one season, and I
Really?
believe it was during that year. He shot his best from the free throw line, shooting granny style, but he decided to not do it anymore because he said it looked stupid. And
Who cares if it looks stupid?
a lot
It
of
works.
people just, it cramps their style. But like I said, that despite being how good Wilt Chamberlain was, Bill Russell and the Celtics owned him. They, every single year, night in and night out, poor Jerry West, poor Elgin Baylor. Elgin Baylor never got a ring. That's crazy.
That is didn't he retire in the year after they won a ring? Mm-hmm. That's wild.
Poor Elgin Baylor. But yeah, all-time greatest NBA dynasty, hands down, the Celtics of the 60s. Great Warhawk thought. A lot of great dynasties. A lot of good reminiscence on some of these teams and dynasties as a whole. And now we will move on to some somber news. The Warhawks are officially out it's cooked, out of playoff contention, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Falling to lacrosse on Saturday to go to 5-4 on the season, 3-3 in conference. I'll start with Carson because I know you were actually at the game. Tell us what you saw for the Warhawks. They tried to make a push late after falling down 10-0 in the first half, but unfortunately it was not enough.
Well, it felt like for one of the first times this year, actually, we didn't dominate the run game, which was a huge thing. They outrushed us, and I feel like even in the games we've lost this year, we've still dominated the run game. So we couldn't get that going. Couldn't convert either. Had a lot of chances before halftime to get on the board, and it was just the same old story. And then it was a pretty boring game. And then the fourth quarter comes, and it's just I think there was 2 drives by each team, back-to-back drives, and the drives were a combined 4 or 5 plays for 70 yards each. So defense kind of fell apart in the fourth. We did have a chance to win it late, and then we were driving down the field and fumbled it. I do think he was down by contact, but I guess we'll never know about that. So they did have a chance late, but I don't know. It's definitely not our year, and not worried about Eau Claire, though, but it's not going to matter anyways, just for our moral victory. But there's always next year, I guess. So
It's just so hard to say that it's always there's always next year, there's always next year. Just
Yeah.
considering how dominant Warhawk football has been, I'll pose this question to everyone. What part of this is just lack of hustle from the team, like overall enthusiasm, or is there genuine, debates around Rindall as a coach?
I mean, I'll jump right back in, but I mean, yeah, he hasn't really proven a whole lot as a coach yet, which I know he's still a young coach, but I don't know, you think he'd just pick right up where they left off, and that really hasn't been the case, and they got the talent. I mean, start the year ranked number 3 in the country and then just absolutely fall off. So I don't know. There's been a little question with his play calling. I don't know if it's him, but throughout the season I've noticed a couple things too, but I don't know. It's only his second year, third.
Yes, this is his second year as a
so
coach.
yeah, I'd
I
say
thought this was his first.
No, it's a
no,
second.
I'd say we'd worry if this happens again next year, because last time this happened, it's been over 20 years. So if we have back-to-back years like this, then we start wondering. So
I think another big thing this year is the WEAC has been very competitive.
yeah, I mean,
Like
look at
teams
Stout.
that we didn't expect are like now just performing out of their minds.
Stout beat Oshkosh too on Saturday.
Wow. That's like you said, yeah, the WIAC has been far more competitive in any year
Yeah.
than since I've been a student here at Whitewater.
I gotta vote. So do we call it the WIAC or the WEAC? This is like
It's
a
the
huge
WIAC.
debate.
I've always said the Y.
I
It's
call
the
it
WIAC.
WEAC.
It's the WIAC.
I say the
always-
WEAC too.
I always say why.
I don't think anybody knows the right answer, but I just had to ask you guys.
Mason, tiebreaker vote.
say why.
Say Y.
Say
Say
WEAC. WEAC.
Say it.
Just tie it.
I feel like WEAC sounds the most.
That is just.
WI.
We need a coin flip.
Oh my
I
gosh.
wish I had a penny on me right now. That would
I'll
say
have to
heads or
ask
tails.
Chris after the show.
Yeah.
I'm fairly confident it's
I don't
WIAC.
think-
Yeah, Chris will be the
Broadcast
tiebreaker.
I don't think there's an actual right answer though.
I mean,
So-
I guess it's subject to interpretation,
We
but
could just say the whole conference name.
Needless-
The Wisconsin Intercollegiate Athletic Conference.
needless to say, just all in all, brutal to fall back-to-back years to lacrosse, especially how big last year's loss was at home.
Oh, I
This was
remember
just
that.
not traditional Warhawk football. So, Zach, going into next week against Eau Claire, what would you say the message would be to the team going into definitely a winnable game and it being our last game of the season?
Just try to end strong. I mean, I know it, even though it's just not our year, but it'd be like, hey, we still got one game left. Let's just finish on a high note and win. But I will mention one thing, though. There is one stat that I've realized that out of our 4 losses, 3 of the 4 losses we've had are away games. Have you guys realized that?
I have not, but
No,
it's
it's
No, I haven't either.
really 3. Yeah, 3 of the 4 losses have been away.
we are 4-1 at home and 1-3 on the road this
Yeah.
season. So, would you say
Like
the
the
season is
Bears.
attributed to road struggles?
It sounds like to me, yeah. Because I mean, if you look at our home games compared to our away games, I mean, look at the Friday night game with the 66-0, and then come the following week where we play away against Platteville and it's 17-10, and then we bounce back the following week after that at home for homecoming week and we win 13-7, and then now look at this week. We lose by 3 points by a field goal to
It's
lacrosse.
like every other week, they look good one week, then the next week they
it's
lose.
like then it's literally after week 3 of the season. Literally, the pattern's been win loss, win loss, win loss.
Yeah.
And another
That's actually a
thing
good point.
noticed, just with the exception of the home loss to Mary Hardin Baylor, all of our losses were 1-score games.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so frustrating.
Yeah, this one too. We did have a field goal block too, so it was kind of a chip shot field goal. It was 30 something. So you take that back too, and it's overtime.
It's so frustrating because you look at that play call against Platteville up 10-7 in the 4th where you go for it on 4th and goal from the 8. You have the down by contact fumble question this past weekend and a blocked field goal as well, resulting in a 3-point loss. Again, against Stout, a game that was easily winnable. We did have the ball in the final possession. A lot of just unfortunate breaks, and overall just, you can call it mismanagement or just bad timing, but there's a very good chance that Whitewater, in an alternate universe, is sitting at 8-1 on the season. So, Adam, again, I'll ask this question to you. What do you feel like the message should be going into this weekend with Rindal and the team, considering this will be the final game of the year?
Well, yeah, as you said, since this will be the last game of the year, like, not to really think about like what you're playing for, but just remember that you're playing for UW Whitewater, and just just perform well and just crush them. Just take all of your frustrations out on the Blue Golds, and as Zach said, just end the year on a high note.
I 100% agree. And I got one more question, this one specifically for Mason. So I know how you mentioned last week everyone describing it as Warhawk football, but you specifically as a freshman haven't seen that. What is your hope for optimism going into next year, considering you'll be at Whitewater a little bit longer? You as a fan, what is your perspective from this season, and how do you view these next 3 years during your time here at the school?
I think, ironically, with like every sports team that I've been watching and been a fan of this year, it's kind of the same thing. It's a lot of us shooting ourselves in the foot, whether it be the Bucks, the Packers, or the Warhawks. I feel like the turnovers are ultimately what keeps on messing up games for us. You consider the fact that we've averaged probably about like 2 interceptions, bare minimum, a game, and that's not even including like fumbles or like fourth downs or whatever else. I feel like there's a lot of things that just can be cleaned up. And I mean, you guys said it's the coach's second year. I feel like as he gets more comfortable, hopefully he doesn't get fired after this year. I feel like you should give him some more time. Just let things settle, let things keep going that way. But over time, just building back that identity and figuring out the pass game a lot more. It seems like our run game just isn't as consistent as we would have hoped it could have been. It's still pretty good and probably still the better part of our offense. But I feel like if we can just get the pass game to work together with the run game, it's easy fixes. One-score games, losing every single time, that's a difference between like a field goal, one more touchdown, one less interception. It's the little things that we got to clean up, and hopefully we can get back to being the Warhawks that everyone expected us to be this year.
And I couldn't have said it any better myself. Once again, the Warhawks will conclude this weekend on the road against UW Eau Claire, looking to finish their season at 6-4. On a less somber note, we're going to switch into the next topic, going over some NFL football. Packers fans, take a breath. Had a bye week this week, so Wisconsin Packer fans, you got a week for Love to get healthy. A perfectly timed bye week coming off a loss to Detroit. Get your guys healthy. Coming to next week, bigger, better, stronger than ever. Great rest. Packers are looking great, especially in as competitive as the NFC North is. So, had a lot of games this Sunday, and the real takeaway from this week, I want to start with this game, or the primetime game. So we'll start with Thursday Night Football, as the Bengals and Ravens were in a shootout on Thursday night. Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals ultimately falling short, like I said, 35-34. Burrow throwing for 428 yards, but the main takeaway of the game, and for fantasy owners everywhere, Ja'Marr Chase. 11 receptions, 264 yards, and 3 touchdowns. In what world is he not targeted on the 2-point conversion? I'll pose this question to everyone. If you are going to go for 2 there, with the night that Ja'Marr Chase had, how do you not target him on that 2-point?
It's kind of like we were talking about earlier, Seahawks-Patriots. How do you not give the ball to Marshawn Lynch, right? In that part of the field. But it's crazy that they didn't give the ball to Ja'Marr Chase. He was hot. And, I mean, early in the year, he was like, I remember there was issues with him and his contract. He didn't seem satisfied. And now Ja'Marr Chase just is in his element. Just sucks that they couldn't pull it off there. They needed that win with the way the season's been going. And you just don't give it to your best receiver right there. That's crazy.
In a game that wasn't expected to be winnable from the Bengals, especially just in terms of playoff implications, this was a must-win, especially given how close it was, especially after having a 10-point lead. You're a Chase Brown fumble away from controlling that next drive, potentially even scoring a touchdown, being up 17. Instead, give the ball right back to a hot Ravens offense. who ended up scoring a touchdown, and then obviously the killer was that 84-yard touchdown to Wallace in the fourth. Zach, I'll ask you here. At what do you feel? You got to feel some sincerity for Joe Burrow.
Yeah, but just the end though. But this is what drives me crazy though. Like you said, they needed to win that game in order to keep their season alive. But the thing is though, they could just get the extra point and still have a better shot at winning the game. But just when I heard that they were going for 2 points, I was like, why? You guys need to win this game. If you guys want to have a better shot, you got to get extra point and go to overtime. I know it sounds crazy, but I don't care. The best case scenario is just go to overtime and hope for the best. But just going for a 2 point, especially with, like I said, with how the Bengals season has been going and how dominant Ravens have been too recently, it's like I don't think I would have taken the risk at that point of the season. Like what? We're already in like week 10. It's like or week 11. No, week 10. I'm sorry. I thought we were in week 9. My bad.
Oh, you're all good.
But yeah, it's just like, but you know, you got to give Bengals credit though for at least putting up a fight.
I mean, this game was electric, and we're mainly talking about the Bengals here, but the Ravens more than obviously deserved the win as well. Lamar put on a masterclass, and we're really seeing just how beautiful this Lamar and Derrick Henry tandem is.
It's crazy because you know me. I said I never really was big on Lamar, especially his passing game. I thought he was a great, quarterback, but I just didn't think he was, next level. This year he's proven me wrong, and I love it. Lamar is doing great, and I think it has something to do with Derrick Henry. Kind of like that. I'm gonna make a comparison to Boise State a little bit. That one night they had that game, Ashton Genty was running the ball well, and then ultimately they were focused on him. The quarterback was allowed to, excel. I forgot what game that was. I think it was UNLV, if I'm not mistaken. But it's kind of like that with Baltimore. They've got 2 running threats now that they're focused on so much that Jackson is able to, excel in the passing game, and he's really doing a great job. And he's got some good receivers. Zay Flowers has obviously been great. It's a very fun offense to watch.
Unanimous MVP.
I actually
100%.
Felt like every time he dropped back, and scrambled a little bit, every time he threw it, I just felt like it was going to be a completion, like every single time. And I don't know. And then I'll take an opposite stance. I don't blame the Bengals for going for 2 there because, man,
I love the play call personally.
Yeah, you don't want to give the ball back to Lamar. Don't want to take into overtime because your defense cannot stop Lamar, and
You're basically
you
a coin
don't-
flip away.
It was kind of like that.
they had no business even really being in that game, and I think you just got to take the risk. So
It was like that Tampa Kansas City game.
I mean, if it worked out, they would have been geniuses. So, but
Yeah, it was like that Tampa Kansas City game though, except it was the opposite. They kicked the extra point. Everyone's questioning them. Why don't you go for 2? You don't want to take Kansas City to overtime, kind of thing. But
yeah,
It was smart. They kicked the extra point, even though they lost. That I still would have made that move to get the extra point. And go
Zach
to
stands by the extra point.
I still
Yes.
believe that they should change overtime in the regular season, just like the playoffs have it,
Yeah.
where both teams get.
That was
And
my rule
wi-
change.
With that rule change, that probably impacts the decision
Yeah.
of going for 2 in
Right.
general.
I would,
Yeah.
if it was the same where both teams get the ball, I would just kick the extra point and settle for
yeah.
it.
So potentially a rule change in the future could be altering head coach decisions. I'll pose the question to you, Adam, because you haven't really commented on it yet. What do you do in that situation? You tie the game, backs against the wall. Do you kick the extra point and play for overtime, or do you go for 2? And if you do go for 2, what's the play call?
Well, just based on playing like college football, and no, it's not 25. I play 14 yet. Yes, I'm old.
Oh,
school,
good.
But
Little nostalgia.
it depends on the team, honestly. Like it depends it depends on the team that you're going up against. If you know their defense really isn't that great, I would say go for 2. But if you know that they have a good offense plus a great defense, I would say the safe bet would to kick the extra point.
So just
But
depending on the day.
Like the bottom line is that it's based on who you're playing.
I agree. Mason, any thoughts on that?
Just specifically on like the Bengals versus.
Just the game as a whole and the decision to go for 2 on the final touchdown.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I feel like the play call wasn't completely awful. I feel like ideally you do just get it to the hot hand all the time, but it doesn't always go that way. I'm sure that they might have practiced the play, and not every play is going to go your way. 2-point conversions, them getting converted, there's a reason people don't just go for them all the time. If they were guaranteed, people would just go for them all the time. So either way, even if they targeted Jamar Chase, who's to say that he wouldn't have caught the ball or whatever else? So that's tough. I mean, sometimes you just play an amazing game, and you just can't outplay the other team. The Ravens seem like they just simply scored more, and being able to come back from being down. Lamar Jackson, I mean, they said earlier, unanimous MVP. I feel like this game right here really showed, like, going against the Bengals. The Bengals are a lot better than the record shows, and I do hate that for them because I do like the Ravens, and I kind of did want the Bengals to win just so they still had a chance at the playoffs. But I feel like at this point it's kind of over in that regard, which does suck because the Bengals are such a great team. Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow played about as good as you can ask a quarterback and wide receiver duo to play, and it just didn't end up happening. So I feel like it's not about that one play. It's just you played against a better team at the end of the day, and not much you can do about that.
Jamar Chase did not get that extension this offseason, solidifying himself on the market for next year.
He
Curious
still
to
doesn't
see.
have a contract?
He will be a free agent at the end of the season.
They got to be begging him to come.
Not just that they got to get Jamar, they've got to improve the defense and
The offensive line in
get
particular.
the offensive line because Joe Burrow has never had any protection, and it's crazy because going to Chicago, looking at them, they've been they've had that same issue. Those are two teams that should be better than they are, to be honest. I think Chicago, if they had no line, they would look pretty solid, I think.
Subtle Bears dig.
9 sacks. Yeah.
We'll get to
Oh,
that
man,
game
that
shortly.
game.
It's nothing against, Chicago. I think they're a solid team if they had that O-line.
Understandably so. Last part of this segment, I know I wanted everyone to select a game, but overall, in terms of everyone analyzing it, I don't know if we'll have the time for, so I'm still going to have everyone give their game, and we're just going to move on to the next one. So, Zach, the game that you selected, and what about it stood out to you?
Which game was it?
A game of your choice, any game from this past weekend.
Oh, for college.
No, for for football, NFL, this
NFL.
past weekend.
The NFL. I'm pretty sure you know which game I want to talk about.
34-6.
Yep.
Over the
I want.
Cowboys.
I want to say one thing right here. I'm gonna be loud and proud for saying it.
Oh boy.
How about them Eagles?
How about them
Eagles?
Eagles?
Yes.
They're good, man.
34
We could also
to
say, how
6.
about them Cowboys? 'Cause
Nope.
They just suck.
Womp,
They
womp,
just suck.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at. But
Awesome victory over the Cowboys, 34 to 6. And how about for the Cowboys, 5 turnovers?
Oh. Dak out for the rest of the year. Just Jerry's world not
Yeah.
coming to fruition.
And we haven't won. And we haven't won at Dallas. Oh, the Eagles haven't won at Dallas in a couple years now, which is also crazy. My mom texted me that stat last night or something, saying that it was Eagles' first time winning at Dallas since what was it? 2020, 2019? I don't remember. I don't even.
It's been a minute. It's been a few
Yeah, or
seasons.
whatever year it was. I don't even know. But no matter what, we still won, and we won. Definitely much needed win. We're now 7-2, but yeah, and what also helped too is that the Commanders lost yesterday. So
That hurt.
Big win
yeah, big win
and a
for
big loss for the Commanders.
big win for Philly right there. And I think that. Oh, and now looking at the standings for NFC East, Eagles are first place.
So,
and exciting Thursday night game between those two.
and that's
Ooh.
coming up this week
I
as
can't
well.
wait for that.
Oh,
So-
wait, this Thursday night
Mhm.
is.
Eagles Commanders.
Oh, that's must win.
Big game. Who would you say your MVP of the game was before we move on to Adam?
Oh man, for
A lot of great picks. A lot of great picks.
for MVP for that game. Going Barkley.
Barkley.
Saquon.
14 for 66 on the ground and a reception for 12 yards
Yeah.
as well.
Barkley.
Great statement win for the Eagles. Dallas, time to pack it up and get ready for next season, Jerry Jones, and maybe start
Yeah.
actually analyzing draft prospects instead of their other
And
prospects.
I'm already gonna call it Dallas. Dallas
He needs
is
to retire.
that Cowboys are gonna fire Mike McCarthy soon.
No,
I
Jerry Jones just
guarantee
needs
ya.
to retire.
Unfortunately,
Yeah,
we cannot
McCarthy's
fire
gone.
owners.
Who agrees with me that Cowboys are probably gonna fire Mike
Oh, it's not
McCarthy?
probably. He's for sure
he's-
gone.
He will.
He's gone. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people
Build a new
I think a lot of
stadium,
people
too.
missed my joke there, but
Remember.
that's okay. We'll move on. Adam, game of your choice from this past weekend and your takeaways and an MVP.
Okay, as much as it hurts me to say it, I'm going to have to say the Broncos and Chiefs game.
Great game.
Yeah, the Broncos almost
Sad
had the
outcome.
upset. They almost had it. I I even saw like near the end. I'm like, come on, you got to do this. Like as like a second favorite team Broncos fan, I'm like, okay, come on, you got to beat the Chiefs. Come on. But then when that game-winning field goal got blocked in the last second, I'm like, you've got to be kidding me right now.
So I
When
For-
is their luck going to run out?
for the
Ridiculous.
viewers, I sent a preemptive text in our little group chat between the 6 of us, and I was like, well, there goes my take on Chiefs going undefeated this season, but some part of me just knew.
You jinxed it on purpose, so you're taking.
You knew it. You knew it.
I think we
I
all
know
knew
where you
something was
live.
going to go wrong on that kick.
I know where you live.
I actually believed for a second. I
That's
believed.
crazy.
I believed until I checked my phone. And then I checked my phone like right when they were about to kick it, and I saw you say that they were about to lose, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, so they're about to win. Because I just have a superstition that like, because I do the same thing. Anytime I say, okay, we got it, is whatever, something always happens. And when I saw the dude jump up, and I was like, there's no way he's about to block it. And he did. And they won. And I almost fell to my knees and cried. Because Mahomes,
About dropped to my knees in Walmart.
Mahomes can't keep getting
I
away
almost
with this.
watched a guy fall to his knees outside of Walmart.
That's crazy.
I
But
mean, Bo Nix didn't look too bad.
I was
He
about
went
to
22
say-
for 30 in passing with 215
That's a good
yards
sign.
and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah,
Bo
that's a good
Nix
sign against
has
that Chiefs
continued
defense.
to impress me far more than every rookie quarterback not named Jaden Daniels. I
Love that guy.
very much love the fit. I love his maturity already as an NFL quarterback, as a rookie in particular. He looked good, did everything right to win the game for him. Unfortunately, the Chiefs and their Andy Reid and their black magic, unfortunately, led to a loss on that last play of the game. Chris, game of the week, MVP, and what your takeaways are.
I was thinking about picking the Houston-Detroit game, but I actually want to look at the Arizona-New York Jets game because I know that it was a blowout and it didn't seem very exciting. But there's two sides to this. You got Arizona, who honestly I think is exceeding expectations. I didn't think they were going to be doing as good as they are. And they're now leading the NFC West, which is a pretty solid conference. Well, it hasn't been this year. Going into this year, we thought it'd be pretty solid. But
Very competitive division.
it just hasn't. Yeah, it's very competitive. Hasn't looked the prettiest, but Arizona out in top. And as for the Jets, man, it must suck to be a Jets fan. You thought that Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, this team was going to be the answer. You fire your coach, then you go get Devontae. It's not been pretty for the Jets.
MESS, mess.
Yes. I still won't understand their decision to fire them firing their head coach.
And I don't think Salah was terrible. I don't
No.
think he was
No,
bad.
he wasn't.
Like, I know they were going through some struggles. They were still figuring things out, but it was too early to fire Salah.
I agree.
And I presume I already know who your MVP is going to be, but can't not talk about Kyler Murray.
Yeah, Kyler Murray, 3-0 since Call of Duty Black Ops 6 come out. He's beaten the allegations. That's huge.
I love that passing line from him. 22 of 24, 266 and a tutty,
Yeah,
as well as 2 rushing touchdowns.
Murray, I think is he's a solid quarterback.
We're finally seeing him fully healthy.
Yeah, I remember the one year. I always bring it up that year that Arizona was. That was a really good year. The one that I think it was 2022. They went to the playoffs. The one year with Kyler. And I hope we get another year like that. Except I honestly hope Arizona can get the pieces together, maybe this offseason, to be like a big team like they were that year.
They're still very, very young.
Hopefully not fall apart, because I remember that year, 2022, they kind of like had a bad end of the season, went to the playoffs, got blown out by the Rams before the Rams went on to win the Super Bowl. Arizona is kind of a fun team to watch, and I hope Marvin Harrison too like gets healthy and starts becoming what we thought he would become.
I agree 100%. This loss really solidified, in my opinion, the end of the Jets season as a whole. Curious to see if Rodgers will come back. And as for the Cardinals, a lot of optimism in Phoenix right now.
Yeah, it may be over for Aaron Rodgers,
It-
but he had a good career.
If it is, legendary career. We'll move on to Carson. I know what game you don't want to talk about, so I'll spare you the
Thanks.
pain.
Yeah,
but,
that definitely was not the game of the week, or
can
it's
tell
probably
you-
the worst game of the week.
Ugh, I feel bad for people that attended that game.
I have to go with the Lions-Texans game. I watched
Great game.
pretty much the entire game. MVP, Jared Goff, of course.
No.
5 picks. That's pretty crazy. He had 4 the entire season going into that game. I don't know. The Texans are just so loaded, and then they just like go dead sometimes, like they kind of did against the Packers too. You know,
That
They just
second
kinda
half was
fell
just
apart.
a
And
collapse.
at halftime, I was confident that the Lions were gonna come back. I got 2 MVPs. Carlton Davis with 1 because his pick really was the momentum shifter. I think it was his first pick because he had 2, but they were deep in. Texans were deep in Lions territory. He picked it off. That kind of changed the momentum. And then I think everybody knows who my other MVP is. So Jake Bates. So
Dog.
I love that guy.
Guy selling bricks a year ago today, and then casually hits a game winner.
Yeah, and that 58-yarder too.
Hit 2 field goals like the same way. I thought they were
Yeah.
both gonna miss, and they both go in. That was incredible.
I know. But yeah, that was just an awesome game to watch, and playing against Jared Goff, that was good for me in fantasy. So because he's been playing pretty consistent this year, and I mean 15 for 30 is pretty awful for him. 5 picks brings his total up to 9 on the year, so just like that. But Lions find a way, and this definitely solidifies they're the best team in the NFC because that was an ugly game.
It
and
was, and
always find a way.
that's what Dan Campbell really brought day one 4 years ago
Grit.
to this Lions team is grit, and they were talking about it. Collinsworth and Michaels or last
Yeah.
night. I mean, Collinsworth and Tarico last night.
Wish it was Michaels.
Yeah, but
I don't-
he's on Thursday night.
I don't
Yeah.
think Tarico's that bad.
I like,
No, I
Blake
like
Tirico.
him. I just
it's
think
just,
Al
but they were
Michaels is the
talking
GOAT.
about it. Just
Yeah.
the Lions find ways to win games. I love what they're doing in Detroit, and as I've said previously, Lions fans can't believe that this is their team. They're so happy.
know.
They're excited.
Hey, and if it was to anybody in the North, I'll give it to the Lions.
Dan
I
Campbell.
like it.
Man, Dan Campbell has been something else, hasn't he?
He's 100% the favorite to win Coach of the Year.
Not just like
and
the
then
play
some.
calling, but he's one of the best leaders, I think, out
He's-
of the coaches.
He's a
gets-
great coach. I've
locker
never
room
seen
guy.
a team more cohesive. And real quickly, Mason, I'm going to have you give us your game before we get on to our last topic. All in all, real quickly, Texans struggling in the second half, but a lot of injuries this year kind of have derailed them. But all in all, great win from Detroit. And now, Mason, give us your game.
I'd say as a Packers fan, the game of the week for me is pretty obvious. I mean, they mentioned the Bears being the worst game of the week. I have to throw this game's hat into the conversation because, man, oh man, the Vikings versus Jacksonville. That game was
one of the games.
That
12 to
that
7.
was an awful game. Not a single touchdown. I mean, the Sam Darnold Cinderella story was nice, but the clock has definitely struck 12 for him. A 48 passer rating. Oh my goodness. That 48 is crazy. Mac Jones happened to have a 38.3, so I mean it was definitely coughing baby versus coughing baby out there.
Another game
Yeah.
where I feel bad for anyone that paid their hard-earned, worked-for dollars to attend.
100%.
Like
I'd
even
say-
Vikings fans are probably like, "What is going on right
Yeah,
now?"
this is awful. As a Justin Jefferson owner in like almost every league, I want to throw up in my mouth,
Screaming,
Get 50
crying, throwing up.
yards. Yeah, it was definitely a game that happened in the NFL. And I'd say the MVP has to be probably the play clock for ending and that game just
I would agree
yeah,
with you on that one.
It's horrible.
Saw a Sam Darnold fanboy fall to his knees outside of a Walmart.
The Sam Darnold for MVP run was legendary from weeks 1 through 5.
At least they won. Yeah.
But yeah, they did win. But all in all, if Trevor Lawrence is starting the game, even as bad as he's been, I didn't think I could see worse than Trevor Lawrence. And then Mac Jones decided to start a football game, and I went, maybe it's not entirely Trevor's fault. This Jaguars team is horrendous to the fact that I even think my Titans are better than them.
Yeah, the
And
Jags might be the worst in the league. I don't know. It's tough.
It's really bad. But that'll conclude the NFL segment this weekend. A lot of lackluster games as a whole, minus the 2 primetime games. The Sunday slate was pretty boring. And shout out that Germany game. We sent over the Panthers and Giants to appease that crowd. I really am so happy that we sent 2 great teams for our international audience to watch
The
play
2
a
best
game of
teams.
football.
Yeah.
Oh, poor Giants fans. We will now conclude with a little college basketball. Big college basketball fan here. The
Me too.
Memphis Tigers are 2-0. 2 great wins to start the season. One against Missouri and 2 nights ago against UNLV. 2 teams that will be contending for that bubble, you say, for the March Madness bracket. So all in all, a great start for my Memphis Tigers. But Carson, we'll start with you. You were not able to make it last week. So we had everyone here, if you were listening to last Monday's show, pick a team to follow for the rest of the season that wasn't their home team per se. So Carson, give us your
And
team
why
to
did you
follow.
get to pick Memphis?
Well, I was trying to keep it out of Wisconsin.
No, yeah, that's fair.
So
I like it.
To be fair, I'm from Tennessee, so
Yeah.
I give myself the credit there.
I went with Auburn.
Great pick.
Because they had quite the first week. They beat Vermont by 50, which, yeah, it's just Vermont. But, I mean, every year they usually make the tournament, and they're always in the mix for that upset, like the 12 over the 5 or the 13 over the 4. So, impressive beating them by 50. And then they go on the road, their players get in a fight on the plane, and the plane turns around and goes back home. And then they got to fly to Houston on the day of the game to play the number 4 team in the country, and they beat them. So, impressive start to the year, especially after. I would like to know more about what that fighting was on the plane, but yeah, they're 2-0, beat the number 4 team, Houston, and now they snuck into the top 5. So Auburn sits at number 5 in the country right now.
Houston is very difficult to beat at home, and
It'll probably be like one of their 2-3 losses of the year. They're in a good conference now.
Yeah,
so.
they are in the Big 12 now, but a lot of my optimism with Auburn kind of derailed following that story that came out.
Yeah, I know.
thought this would be a good game, and I was like, oh, Houston's definitely got it now. And then they go out, and Tahad Pettiford off the bench puts up 21.
Yeah.
And just all in all, a great game from Auburn. Was able to sit down and watch it. Great game from the Auburn Tigers. Very encouraging start to their season on the court, off the court. We'll
Yeah.
see how that plays out.
Yeah, I wanted to pick them I knew it'd be interesting, and it's a good start to the year, so.
Alrighty. Mason, how about them Rutgers over in New Jersey?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very happy to see that my Scarlet Knights start out the season handling business as they should as a ranked team, showing why they are a ranked team. As a matter of fact, they moved up from 25 to 24, so we're slowly but surely climbing that ladder. But we went out there, we went against the Wagner Seahawks, beat them 75 to 52, nice little 23-point win. I mean, the game, at first, I was like, this might be a decent game. I mean, the Seahawks came out. They had the lead for a second. They scored 10 points with around 14 minutes left in the half. And then they later on hit a three-pointer with 3 minutes left in the half to make the score 13 to 25. So it was bad pretty early on. It was kind of just, they got out, they got that lead, and we took it back and just never gave it back at all. As a matter of fact, Ace Bailey didn't even play this game, and we still went out there and beat them like that. So I have high hopes for how the season will look. Got to give a shout out to Dylan Harper, 24-3. He went out there, handled business. PJ Hayes, 12-1-3, handled business. Lathan Somerville, 11-1-8, handled business. I'm just glad to see how the team's looking, and I really like the team that I picked. I'm looking forward to when Ace Bailey does play. But starting the season 1-0 with the win like that, that's got to have all other Scarlet Knights fans optimistic, and I'm excited to see who we play next. We're going to go from the Hawks to a different team. So
Playing St. Peter's tonight, and Ace Bailey is listed as questionable. So we will see if he will make his college debut tonight. Zach, how about them Huskies? Jayhawks, Kansas.
Jayhawks, yeah, everything is looking business as usual. 2-0. One of the recent games they won, was against North Carolina. They blew a 20-point lead, but luckily they were able to hold on and score a 92-89 victory. So, looked very scary. I mean, I thought for a second the Jayhawks were going to pull off an Atlanta Falcons, but nope, they didn't. But nope, they held on and they're still undefeated. And yeah, like I said, business as usual for the Jayhawks.
That was a great game to watch.
That was a good
Came
game.
down to the final shot. But yeah, shout out Hunter Dickinson putting on a
What do you
tremendous
mean,
performance.
shout out?
What do you
He doesn't
mean?
get any shout outs.
What? Just a shout
He had
out.
20 and 10.
Yeah. You got a
Shout out
problem with
Hunter
that?
Dickinson for the great performance in his 78th season
I
as
was
a
just
college
gonna say,
basketball
what is he,
player.
30 now?
And Zeke Mayo off the bench scoring 20. Great game.
AJ Store.
AJ Storr had a basketball game. 13 points, 27 minutes off the bench. Shout out known Wisconsin
Probably
transfer.
shot 5 for 20.
It was not pretty. He definitely did shoot a lot of shots. Should have maybe scored more than 13. But all in all, great win for Kansas, solidifying themselves as the number 1 team in the country with their ancient roster with Hunter Dickinson. But great win against North Carolina. Always good to get those out of the way early, and they will play Michigan State tomorrow. UConn, Adam, how about them Huskies?
Well, they start the season 2-0. They beat Sacred Heart 92-56, and on Saturday they beat New Hampshire 92-53. And Liam McNeely had it's only been 2 games and he has a double doubles in both games. I thought that was honestly really nice to see. So that kind of goes to show what kind of a season he may end up having.
Very good. Not the best level of competition per se for the Huskies to start the season. Kind of a little bit of a warm-up start for them. I think their first real test will come in 2 weeks from today against Memphis.
I was
Very
about to
excited
say
for
the
that
Maui
one.
Invitational.
But shout out Alex Caravan. And despite it being against Sacred Heart, I
20
want to
points.
pull up that statistic from those games. Scored 20 points. I know he had 7 blocks as well.
Yeah, 7 assists and 6 rebounds.
Yeah, all in all, dominant from Alex Caravan, the only returning starter from that national championship team last year, really solidifying himself as the leader. And this team looks nice. Like you said, Liam McNeely also doing his thing, 2 double-doubles to start the season. So all in all, UConn in their quest for a three-peat, off to a good start. 2 not-so-great teams, but you got to win the games you're supposed to win, and they did just that. So we will see, especially in 2 weeks, that game against Memphis. I'm looking forward to it. Chris,
gonna be a good game.
lastly, Roll Tide? Question mark.
Roll Tide. I mean, first game looked pretty good. UNC Asheville, 110-54, big blowout win. Then the next one they played Arkansas State. Wasn't as pretty, but they got the job done, 88-79. Looking at the schedule coming up ahead, little concerned. We got to play McNeese, and then we got to play 13-ranked Purdue. Got to play Illinois, which is always a solid team. Then we got to play Houston, Rutgers, North Carolina, Creighton, all ranked teams. That's going to be a bit of a gauntlet there for Alabama, but I think they can get some big wins out of there, but I don't know if they're going to get out of it,
Unscathed.
Yeah.
McNeese, even though they're not ranked, is a very tough team.
They're a tough team, too.
Very tough team, and like you said,
that whole thing from McNeese down to Creighton is going to be tough.
this entire next month worth of games from today, November 11th, against McNeese, which starts in 3 minutes, till December 14th against Creighton. That is a stretch that if they can go 5-2, 4-3, I don't think you should be disappointed in it at all.
That's a win.
This is a
honestly.
gauntlet and a half, especially for an SEC team, and that's before you even get into conference play following the start of the new year. So overall, can't ask for a better start. A little worrisome, kind of a 9-point win over Arkansas State, but all in all, great offensive performance. Mark Sears looks great, and I'm very excited to see what they do in these upcoming games with Purdue, McNeese tonight, and then Houston, Rutgers especially, and then in December, North Carolina, Creighton. So all in all, college basketball is back. I'm very excited. We'll now move on here to our final thoughts here on this Monday Hawk Talk. Zach, final thoughts.
I'm gonna make this very short and sweet, but tonight's Monday night game is Dolphins and Rams. I'm predicting the Rams will win.
Rams to win. Adam, final thoughts.
Okay, I'm Gonzaga 101, Baylor 63.
Boom.
Yeah,
What
I
a
was gonna mention
dominating performance. Shout out Mark Few's son for getting yammed on, though, in the second half.
Man, that
Time.
was tough.
Chris, final thoughts.
I predict Dolphins win in overtime, game-winning field goal.
Dolphins win in overtime with
Nice.
a game-winning field goal. Carson, final thoughts.
Fire Matt Eberflus and Shane Waldron now.
Yes.
As a Bears fan, as you know, you being a Bears fan, I 100% understand your sentiment. I'm so sorry. Mason,
Rip.
final thoughts.
I'm going to talk about tonight's game too. Devon Achane, I don't care what you put up as long as you don't get outscored by 3 or more by DeMarcus Robinson, we'll be all right. So,
I'm
please lock
also
in.
I'm also finishing my final thoughts here today with some fantasy football. Please, 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 Raheem Mostert, do not score more than 13.9 fantasy points. That will conclude Hawk Talk here today on 91.7 The Edge, WSUW Whitewater. Dream On, Aerosmith coming up for you up next.